Good morning, everyone. This is Karan Kamal, co-founder of Future Factor 360. And hello and welcome to the part one of the session on driving innovation from India and managing lifecycle complexities. So let me begin this session by setting some context. Over the years, India has emerged as a key destination of choice for global engineering and R&D. Today, Indian ER&D players are at the forefront of innovation and are playing a very decisive role in serving as an innovation partner for global enterprises. Across verticals, we have seen that the players have demonstrated the potential that India has to offer in terms of innovation, as well as building traditional and new age products. They have leveraged their innovation prowess to create unique next-gen world-class, world-first kind of products for global customers. However, we also see that despite the many strides that we have achieved in terms of driving innovation, we see a lot of engineering and R&D entities continue to face challenges in terms of institutionalizing innovation within the organizations due to hurdles encountered at various stages of innovation journey in terms of coming up with new ideas, building up the business case, securing the funding, gaining leadership, stakeholder buy-ins, etc. So today's immersive session is aimed at helping the ER&D entities in India to drive high-impact innovation while learning and implementing the best practices from peers who have successfully driven these innovations. We have two very special guests today, Rajneesh Kini, CTO of Cyient, and Sai Prasad, Unit CTO and of IoT and Digital at TCS. Can I request Rajneesh to go first in terms of introducing himself?
Thank you, Karan. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm Rajneesh. I represent Cyient, an engineering and technology solutions organization. As you know, we work across industries providing sustainable digital engineering solutions and technology services. As a CTO at Cyient, my role is to drive innovation across the technology segments that we have picked up for our customers by building innovative solutions and solution accelerators so that we can help our customers to design their tomorrow faster, right? That's what we do. I have been in the engineering industry for about last 25 years and have worked across US and Europe with being at customer locations. And I can strongly say that, or I strongly feel that while India has provided a lot of capability at scale for software solutions and digital engineering, and the whole world looks at us, we have a lot more that we can do on innovation. And this is the right time to do that. We can do much more in terms of bringing innovation in technology and products in engineering domain for our customers to accelerate this transformation across the industries. Thank you again, and back to you, Karan. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rajneesh. Sai Prasad, if you could briefly introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, morning all. My name is Sai Prasad. I'm the Unit CTO for IoT and Digital Engineering. First of all, it's a pleasure being on this forum, and thank you very much for this opportunity to share, some of our experiences in this space. I come with over 30 plus years of experience in the engineering and digital engineering and IoT, and essentially my background has been that I worked on product development, product management, and built a couple of products for TCS on life sciences and medical devices. And I've also filed 3 patents in the field of digital twins for logistics, manufacturing, and process industries. And bringing the design thinking and the innovation culture is of a key interest, for the Indian industry. So we should be probably doing more, and there's a lot of opportunities for us to expand, and I think this is a great forum to be in. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sai Prasad. And just for our audience, in terms of the format for this session, so we will have the panelists with Rajneesh and Sai Prasad talk about a cutting-edge innovation that their respective organizations have worked on, right? Then they will walk us through the entire entire journey of what it took to build this innovation. And finally, we will also have them talk about what was it about their respective organizations, the success factors within their organization that led them to create this innovation, and also in terms of looking at how institutionalizing a culture and mindset of innovation is helping them build many more innovations for within the organization and for their customers too, right? So let's move forward. Let's begin with a poll where we just wanted to get a sense of the pulse of the audience. Avinash, if we could have the poll come up. All right, so we have 3 questions here, and these questions will actually, set forth the momentum for the rest of our conversation today. So we want to understand how big a priority is innovation in the context of the organization that you're working in. Is it a high priority, medium priority, low priority? What kind of innovation is your organization focused on? Are you largely looking at product related innovation? Are you looking at process related? And is the current focus largely disruptive? When we say disruptive, it's largely, are you trying to build products that are first in the industry, first in the world kind of products, or are you looking at something incremental? Because both are equally important. So we'll probably give it a few seconds so that you can put in your votes into this poll. Avinash, please confirm once we have, okay. Okay, very interesting insights. So a lot of people, overwhelming majority say that innovation is a very high priority for them. It's a very small percentage who say that it's a low priority or a medium priority. But it'll be interesting, those who responded low priority or medium priority in terms of why you think so. So maybe you can put in your thoughts, comments in the chat box. What kind of innovation is your organization working on? Again, we see a majority talking about product innovation. And then, and again, the focus of innovation, interestingly, many of you are working on incremental, but yeah, overwhelming majority says both. So good insights for us to get started. So thank you very much for your responses. And I would request the panelists also to probably have this as a premise as you formulate your thoughts as a part of this discussion. So let's begin this discussion now with Sai Prasad. Sai, as we deep dive into the innovation that you seek to talk about, so can you please highlight what was the problem statement that led you to create this innovation or this solution, with some highlights about the solution features, what were its key differentiators, as well in terms of what was the kind of business impact that it's delivering at this juncture for you or for your customer, or in terms of the potential that it has in terms of the business impact that it can create. So over to you, Sai.
Yeah, sure, Karan. Thank you so much. So, see, if you really look at the innovation that we've been doing on various industries, be it on medical devices, on industrial manufacturing, process industries. One of the things that I thought we can highlight in this particular forum is what we have done with the autonomous cars and EV. So if you really look at the automotive industry, what is disrupting the industry is 3 major aspects. There's a lot of push on autonomous vehicles. Secondly, on the software-defined vehicles, and third on the EV and the whole EV push that is coming more from a sustainability angle. Now, out of these 3, it's already doing is fundamentally changing the electronics and the electrical architecture of a vehicle. And if you want some of these base things to be developed, you need a platform to do that. So it's very key for us to build that platform, and on top of that, we build these verticalized, I would say, the needs on autonomous SDVs and EVs. Now, the most interesting part out of that autonomous vehicle is where TCS has been focused, especially on trying to go more from a level 2 to a level 3 automation. And as you start building, as you know, when autonomous driving has, the 5 levels. So level 1, level 2 has been fairly achieved in the industry and in the market, but getting to a level 3, I know that's where people are getting to, and I think we have been able to demonstrate prototypes that are very, very close to a level 3 autonomous driving. Now, that again brings a whole lot of challenges with it, because when we talk about a level 3 autonomy, it again changes with respect to each country that you adopt in. And you can, predominantly if you take Europe and US, Japan, some of these countries, it is, and if you've driven on some of these roads, except for some real bumper to bumper traffic jams, it's fairly neatly laid out roads, you get lanes and things like that. Bringing that into an Indian context and having autonomous driving facility or functionality to be demonstrated in India becomes that much more challenging, because we don't have most of the infrastructure that is there. And that's where we have to innovate to bring a lot of these functions and these features into autonomous driving. In fact, I read somewhere that people are talking about that about close to 1 million lines of code in a car. Out of that, maybe 35 to 40% comes from Indian ER&D industries, and that actually is a little bit disheartening to see. Not for the fact that it is, we are contributing a majority of the the world's autonomous driving code from Indian engineering industries, but they actually downplayed the word of code and taken us more into a developer kind of a mode. But essentially what we are doing is solving very complicated use cases. How do you do a virtual validation of an entire car? For example, if I've done an autonomous driving for maybe 100,000 kilometers, how do I kind of build on that with newer things on virtual validation? Because you really can't automate, or rather validate the car in all the scenarios that you see. Or for example, if you take the whole concept of labeling and the auto labeling that we do. And this is also another very key aspect. And in fact, as recent as a couple of weeks ago, in fact, last week, we have actually released a joint article on how we have supported, using the NVIDIA tools to do some of the auto labeling features. So these are things that we do from an Indian engineering R&D, and I think these are things that need to be highlighted. And it's one of the most innovative, output that we're coming from India, and we're continuing to, do that in this space. Over to you, Karan.
That's wonderful and interesting. But is this something that you were already co-creating with some of your customers, or have you deployed this as a concept with some of your customers?
Yeah, so actually we have been on the ADAS, the driver assist, for a very, very long time, much before things got picked up, right from straightforward things, because we always used to look at having a driver in the seat. So whether the driver is attentive, or for example, you're looking at a lane departure, and these are all patents and filings that you have done 4 to 5 years ago. But things have started moving, and we were very closely engaged with a Japanese OEM. We also work with our sister concern, JLR, that is Jaguar Land Rover, where we are trying to co-create along with them with their vehicles. In fact, we have 3 autonomous vehicles flying on our TCS campus jointly with the Japanese OEM. So we have been experimenting on this. In addition to that, we have also looked at a complete bumper-to-bumper design for an Indianized vehicle on an EV, being manufactured from, with collaboration with our French customers. So we have customers, trying to, enter into the space, and we're kind of helping them to kind of address some of these things that are more challenging from a market perspective, as well as from the algorithms and the kind of new things that you could potentially do in this kind of a scenario.
That's very interesting, Sai. So, Rajneesh, over to you in terms of the innovation that you seek to showcase as part of today's discussion. And again, if you could highlight what's unique about it, how is it helping your organization? How is it helping your customers?
Sure, Karan. Yeah. So we picked up 5 themes for driving innovation for our customers. I'll go into 5 of them probably in later part, but one of the key element in that was software defined ecosystem, right? We felt that all our customers are moving to more and more software defined systems and software defined solutions. So back in 2020, we started that journey creating building blocks required for SDX, right? So for creating software defined network or software defined vehicle or software defined device, anything of that sort. One of the first innovation in that space was a software defined radio that we came across, and we did this in 2020 to 2021, where we used the infrastructure or the base components that we were building for software defined ecosystem and built a indigenously designed, developed and manufactured software defined radio for secure military communication, right? And this is a system that really enables a suite of custom waveforms. It provides fully programmable SDR baseband chipset, and it supports all kind of customer specific security modules, right? So that defense or military can communicate using a MANET or a mobile ad hoc network across difficult terrains, right? So whether it is hills or very different terrain, without depending on any network, they can communicate. And that's something that we did. And good part about this is, while software defined radio was developed along with a customer in defense segment using the requirements they had, the components in that really helps us to take it across software defined network or software defined vehicles, so that the concept of software defined is something that our customers can adopt and do faster and faster when they try to go to market.
Okay. And have you successfully delivered this innovation in the context of few other verticals beyond the military application that you spoke about?
Yes. So we did it in 3 segments right now, 3 industries. Software defined radio is fully ready product and it's available and it's being launched in the military segments. But beyond that, we took it to vehicle segment, software defined vehicle. As we know, all the automotives are becoming more of a software program than what it was earlier. So that's a segment where we have launched our solution on software defined vehicles. And the third is on the medical devices side, right? Software defined medical devices, where you can quickly convert your legacy big hardware applications into a software defined application using a platform that we have built for moving to software defined solutions, right? These are 3 segments. We are also doing something on software defined network side and enhancing on top of the software defined radio, which is already kind of there. So, but I think these 4 areas are very different industries, right? Each of them have their own compliance requirements, and we went through its own set of challenges. But that has been a good innovative journey for Scient.
And what's been the traction like for these products across industries for you?
Yeah, we don't call them products because these are accelerators that we use to build products for our customers, but it has saved 20 to 30% of time for our customers when they were trying to do their product, right? So because there is a inbuilt accelerator, and the biggest challenge I would say that helped our customers is that the software defined or high performance computing skills are rare in the market, right? So you don't get the skill. So even if a customer wants to do it and plans to do it, it takes a long time to build the team, get things started, etc. So having those pre-built components ready to go, saving about 20-30% of initial time has been a significant benefit for our customers. And then slowly using this, the team can learn more, because moving the legacy team that was working on the ECUs on one side, moving into HPC based software is a challenge, right? But when you have something to get started, that journey becomes faster and you can train and bring more people to do that product development. So that's a benefit. I would say that you can kind of address the skill challenge there and take care of that problem, and also increase your GTM, that go-to-market speed.
Perfect. So in a little while, we will actually go, now that we've heard about the innovations from Scient and TCS, in a little while, we will actually get into, how the entire journey of building this innovation was driven. But before that, let's quickly have an audience poll. Avinash, if you could bring up the question, which is, what are the challenges that you face in your organization with regard to innovation today? So you can actually type your responses in the chat box. Can we have the audience quickly? So we see funding as the first one, commitment to long-term emerging tech, recognition, getting more people, involvement, management commitment for the long run, resourcing, talent with innovation mindset, ROI, getting access to field issues, allocation of skill resources, access to research material, risk-taking ability of the customer and propensity to fund it. So we see a consistent theme in terms of what our audience is saying as the challenges. Leadership backing, wonderful. I hope Sai Prasad and Rajneesh, you're able to view some of these challenges, because I think as we go into the next question, it'll be interesting to see how, in the context of the innovation that your organization developed, how were some of these challenges addressed. So let's now deep dive into our next theme of understanding the journey that you took. So can you walk us through the entire journey in terms of ideating the product to productizing the product, or the innovation rather? I would be careful about using the word product here, especially because you corrected me a little while ago. So these are solution accelerators in your case. In the case of TCS, you may call it a solution. So now that we saw some of the challenges, can you highlight how the business case was created, funding was secured, stakeholder alignment was sought, or for that matter, any other nuances that's involved in building this innovation and making it successful? And also, please talk about any challenges that you faced and any best practices that you may have leveraged through this journey. Something that you learned maybe from another initiative that you did within Cyient that was made applicable here, or maybe something that you learned here as a part of this initiative that is also being leveraged elsewhere. And how did you also scale this innovation from just being a POC to being a full-fledged solution that the customers can adopt, right? Because often when we talk about these new age products, we often from our customers we hear what is called as purgatory of POCs, right? So they do something, but eventually they just don't scale. But the innovation that you're talking about is something, what we understood was that it's a news, it has gained a lot of traction. So if you could share your insights on the journey itself. So Rajneesh, I'll go with you first for this.
Yeah, sure. I think there are a lot of good points that the audience has put in the chat as well, right? I agree with many of them. For us, I think there were three things that really we prioritized, right? I think that was very important. First, we have a monthly tech council meeting where people can bring innovation and evaluate that, right? And good news is the tech council is a forum where the sales team, the delivery team, the innovation team, or the technology group that we have, the CTO team, as well as finance team, HR team, all of them come together into that forum, right? So when somebody presents the innovation, there is a joint agreement on whether that innovation is something that makes sense to the organization, and get a buy-in through a poll that we do in the tech council, right? So there is an agreement that comes from market-facing group, finance-facing team, HR team, delivery team, skill team, capability team, right? All of them, which basically becomes a agreement in the organization to drive that particular thought process or develop that innovation, right? So that's key. I think some of the mentions saying that getting a buy-in in the organization was one of the items in the chat as well, or the responses. And
so was
that
that
needs
the case for, was that the case also for the software defined paradigm that you were talking about?
yes,
That the process
absolutely.
was followed? Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll come to that in a minute. But so this is one process, right, where we get entire organization to align and agree, saying this innovation makes sense, right? The software-defined radio in this case. However, before going to that, right, one step before that, we did something 2 years back, right? We said the innovation. I mean, there is a thought that innovation should be not boxed. It could be any area. It could be completely free, and people should be able to come up with. But I felt and our team felt that it needs to be relevant for our customers, and therefore there has to be a guiding path as to where do we innovate, right? So there has to be certain areas. So we identified 5 areas, right? So and we said any innovation that is coming in within these 5 areas, you can come up with any innovation, right? You can be very free, but any innovation coming up in these 5 areas will get an additional point, right? When we are selecting or approving that business case, right? It will be a little more easier for you to get that business case done or innovation started if it is in those 5 areas. We picked up 5 areas in the area of software defined. So that was number one that I talked about. We said next gen connectivity, 5G related area, right? So one of the business case or the innovation there was to develop a NB IoT chipset for 5G, right? So that's another one. Third area was what my colleague already touched upon on the autonomous systems, right? How can you enable autonomous systems, whether it is vehicle or robotics? How can you enable more autonomous systems? Fourth area was on digital platforms and solutions, right? So how do we make sense out of the data coming up from all these areas and make relevant data insights? And the last area was the green energy transition, where all of our customers, and as we know, the green transition or the sustainability is a key topic, and how do we enable our customers to do that? So we kind of boxed it saying your innovation in these 5 areas will get an added benefit in terms of moving ahead, right? That was number 2. And the third element I would want to call out is, again, I saw that comment in multiple answers, that while the initial innovation can be a thought process, thought leadership, and you do something up to an early POC stage, for it to scale up really, you have to find an MVP customer, right? So that's something that we put together as a rule or a guiding criteria, saying after within about 8 to 12 weeks of developing this idea to a POC stage, we have to make sure there is an MVP customer coming on board and working with us to develop this to next level. That kind of sets the context saying, okay, you can develop the initial part, but then make sure the bigger development of that solution is done along with the customer. And an MVP customer means that it need not be a customer who has decided to buy it, but at least the requirements are coming from customer, the review happens with customer, and there is a customer who is working with you and having interest to see that solution develop as a full-scaled product, right? So I think these are the 3 things that we use, and I thought it worked really well in the last 24 months. Having the buy-in within the organization from various stakeholders, having a roadmap saying these are the 5 areas where we want to go, and making sure people have a guiding path to come up with ideas. And then lastly, making sure there is an MVP customer. Back to you.
Yeah. So typically what we've seen, the hardest part is getting that MVP customer, and typically, the customer is at times unsure of what the POC will deliver. So in such cases, do you typically, is it, do you engage in a free POC? Do you engage in a paid POC? What's the best way to get a customer interest on an innovation that you think can deliver value to the customer?
Yeah, so Cyient as an organization has already decided that we want to invest in an innovation, right? So there is budget, there is a business case, but we put in gates saying that we have to make sure a customer is onboarded as MVP before we spend more than this much amount or so. And in that case, what happens is, even if the customer comes up and says, okay, I'm willing to spend my time with you on requirements, reviewing and see how it develops. And in some cases, they say, okay, I will co-sponsor it by spending 50% of the expenses. Some cases they say that, no, I want the IP for it. You develop it for me, but I'll pay 100%, right? All the 3 scenarios exist. But that's where the flexibility is really required, right? Where you work with customers, see what they need and develop it to the extent along with them so that it's practical and industrial, but at the same time, commercially flexible.
Sure. But what were the challenges though, Rajneesh, in terms of, when you actually look at a software-defined solution acceleration? What were the challenges that you ran into while actually driving this innovation in terms of the team that was constituted or in terms of the structure of the team? So, what were those typical challenges, and what were the approaches to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so as it happens for any innovation project, right? There is a time in terms of getting that idea to market, and you have to really move fast, right? Otherwise, you may be too late, and that may not be an innovation anymore because somebody else will do it. For us in the early stage of 2020, the skill availability in that area was really scarce, right? So people were starting to think about it. People who were doing regular RTOS-based development were now moving into high-performance computing, and they had to be trained about container and those kind of new concepts, right? So that was one challenge where you have to really identify people who are very keen to take up that journey, very quick to learn that and get into that bandwagon, right? So that's number one. And to some extent that is not very difficult if you have people who are really interested in what is future, right? So that way, in the innovation area, because you can start with a 20-member team, it's not very difficult compared to when you want to really scale it to an industrial segment and you need 2,000 people, right? So that's a different issue altogether. But in innovation, it still took us some time, but we were able to form that the team over about 3 months' time, right? Within picking up people from our organization, giving them an opportunity, saying, would you like to join this and be the future, right, of technology, etc. And that's how we addressed it, right? By motivating people to kind of move into that bandwagon. We do a scientific forum with about 13,000 people in the 1,300 people in the organization, right? They come together and discuss these ideas. It generates interest in them, and then they get onto that bandwagon. That's number one challenge, really, right? Number two, as you also mentioned earlier, was as any innovation project, number of projects that they start, getting an MVP customer and then being successful, it's almost like a startup, right? In terms of success ratio. So you have to really get that and make sure it's moving in the right direction. There will be a lot of questions on where is the revenue coming in. We are a services organization, right? But the commitment from management to make sure we continue to do that journey was very critical, right? I think there has to be some amount of buy-in at all levels in the organization, especially at the middle to senior management, saying that come what happens, we will continue this path. We might drop some idea and do new challenge, pick up new innovations, but continue that path. And this much is something that we will definitely spend in innovation, right? So that's a very, very key thing. Many times what happens is when you win a project, right? Suddenly there's a need for people and there's a need. So this 20 people should quickly move to that project so that we get started with the customer project, right? So those are the kind of second level of challenges where you have to make sure the prioritization of the innovation remains intact, the commitment to innovation remains intact, and kind of reiterate that with the teams and the management to reassure, saying that this is going to yield results. And most importantly, out of the 10 ideas, at least 5 of them should get an MVP customer, or 3 of them should get an MVP customer, and 1 out of that 3 should start yielding results, right? So that's when the whole ecosystem will come together. And for that, everybody has to work together, right? Sales needs to be committed on this idea, right? Saying that this innovation is something that I want to pitch to my customers continuously. Delivery needs to be ready for scaling beyond 20 to 2,000 people. And these are areas like whether ADAS or software defined are areas which are very, very niche in terms of skill set, right? So there has to be a lot of commitment across the organization to have the backup engine ready so that the innovation moves forward, but the ready to scale for the delivery organization is also critical. I would say these are 2-3 major challenges, right? I called about the initial skill set challenges, then continuous funding, right? So how do we make sure there is support from the organization and making sure the results come in to give that reassurance to the team on a continuous basis.
Great. So let me move on to Sai Prasad. Sai, from a TCS perspective and the innovation that you spoke about a little earlier, which is the autonomous vehicle. So walk us through that journey of how how you went about from ideation to productization. What were the challenges that you faced?
Sure. Yeah, I think Rajnish also touched upon a few things, but most importantly for us, it's the customer, and the customer drives most of these areas that we work in and will focus on. And so there are two parts to it. There's the research side and there's an innovation side. Now, the research side is a little bit more far out thinking. We kind of already have defined about six major areas that we work with across various industries and verticals. And then that research is then taken into that innovation cycle. Now, sometimes not everything comes from within the research itself. It also happens within the independent business units as well. And we follow what is called as a technology readiness level. You can look it up on the web. There's all over the place. It was originally defined by NASA. We have modified that, and we put that as the core DNA in what we call the new product and services introduction framework. And each of these technology readiness level is like a graduation as you keep moving from each stage to another stage. And it doesn't mean that at that particular stage all the things of the previous one is complete, but there are certain gates in which you have to complete the previous steps. You can actually migrate into the next TRL or a technology readiness, but you need to really pass. When you're passing that gate, you should have cleared everything behind. And there we have put three major toll gates. One of them is what we call as a torque, where we are talking about essentially the word torque came from how do you convert a potential energy into kinetic energy. So that's why we call that as a torque, where we move from technology readiness level 3 to 4. There, most of the research is fairly complete, and we know that there is some kind of a potential that this can actually be taken to business. We have probably piloted with a customer. The other part, 4 to 6, is where all the grunt work happens, and you have to actually engineer something that can go out into the market. And when you graduate from 6 to 7, we have a corporate technology board which has external advisors. We meet every quarter, and they decide on how, is this the right technology that we should be pitching in? Are these the solutions that the customers are asking for, and things like that. So we graduate into that level, and eventually once we cross TRL 8 or 9, then it becomes an approved product more than just a solution that we offer to customers. So that's predominantly how we are structured and how do we go about doing this. And there are roles created in what we call as a one R&I solution, or a one R&I, one research and innovation group. So some portions of it comes from corporate, but then units like us, we actually are more closer to the business side. So how do you take something from TCS research and get it over to the customer? That's probably where my fundamental role is. I'm more closer to the business side and do work with the research very closely to see how we can actually take some of these to the market. And coming back to the autonomous vehicle area, of course, this was conceived, like I said, many years ago, 2015, 16, or 13, 14 kind of time when we started working on ADAS, and we had a lot of things to show our customers. So in the early days, we would just show some kind of a POC to a customer to say, hey, can we look at some of these functionalities and things like that we have developed? But those are early days. I think once we have then started rolling in, then I think that the whole commitment, getting the management to buy in, and then moving on to keep being invested in this whole, I mean, with the true understanding that this market was really going to pick up in the next couple of years, or rather it might be a 3 to 5 year kind of time frame. So that's where we focus on, and how do we push some of these innovations up into the the solutions that we have to offer to the customer. Now, I think there was also a question which had asked the audience poll on incremental versus disruptive innovation. So there again, we have driven from one of our earlier directors who was no longer there, but his name was Professor Clayton Christensen. So we have modeled against them. We call them as a claim map. So we kind of define things on a 4x4 metrics to figure out what is disruptive, what is incremental, and what is he used to call something as an efficiency innovation. And we have to be invested in something in this area somewhere, and there should be a some allocation of funds across these 3 or 4 areas so that all the 4 quadrants are fairly healthy and well balanced. We might do a lot of things on what we call pure efficiency or just incremental kind of innovation, but some portions of that need to go into the disruptive market as well. So we look at some of these technologies and figure out, do we have all that capabilities ourselves, or we need to partner outside? And there, the lot of the co-creation that we do, either with academia or startups, actually drive, how we take some of these ideas from early stage research through into the engineering cycle, and eventually making it available for our customers. So that, in a nutshell, is what I would like to summarize on, how we kind of push some of these solutions and get that validated with our customers, and try to understand, whether this really has the potential to go forward.
And what about the challenges? Rajni spoke about a few challenges. So what are some other unique challenges that you faced within the context of TCS, and more importantly?
Yeah, there are many, I would say. I mean, in the sense, I think Rajneesh just talk about, the people and the funding and things like that. But again, I would like to, focus on 5 major areas on that is very, very important. Number one is the use case for the customer, that the problem identification is a must. Secondly, is the management committed to that case? Because once management is really committed and saying that, hey, this is something that we can take forward to, then it's fine. But there are certain cases where we go a little bit down the road and figure out that probably this is not where it needs to be, and then you have a whole team who has worked on something. So we look at something called a value extraction. So in case we're not able to take fully that particular solution into the market, we kind of break that down into chunks to figure out if there's any other business or any other area that this could be applied in. And so we have to repurpose the investments that were done, that on what you have spent earlier. So the third part, which is basically the investment piece, is how do we actually leverage that and make sure that we come out with something which is important for our customers. So there, so especially in these first 2-3 areas, it's like you can show something very quick. You can do like 80% of the job with just 20% of the funding to show some magic, but then the last 20% to actually take it to the customer and make it available needs a ton of effort. And that's where the 80% of your patience, the funding, and the strength and the teams, that actually pulls down, or you need to have that patience to kind of take it into the last 20% so that you can actually get this out into the market. The fourth that I would like to touch upon is on a portfolio of IP, and having a very healthy IP and a patent portfolio. If you are not really rigorous in terms of patents and applying IPs and publications, we do kind of lose some of those things, and rather we don't give importance to something like that, like patents. And I think that's a very, very important piece. And the fifth and the last one that I talk about is the people, and you need the right teams. And there again, the challenge is that we need to get the teams with the right skill set and the right mindset to do things. There should be some innovators. There should be some, sales, a very good sales team that can actually sell some of these solutions. There should be people, who are into pure delivery, and because we do a lot of customer deliveries for our customers, we understand how the delivery happens, and some of that expertise is needed for even some of these products and innovation development or solutions development. You need a core delivery team who can actually deliver something out, from these labs. So it's basically like the 5 fingers. All of them need not be of the same size, but you need all of them at different levels, so that you can actually take something which is meaningful into the market. Otherwise, if you focus on only one set of capabilities or functionality, it becomes that much more difficult. So getting the right team, putting them together, is also another a key challenge that you'll face when you're setting up some of these things.
Sure. So we move to the final segment of this, right? So we want to understand some some of which you've already discussed, but I would just like to put my question in context, right? So when you look at the startups, right? So they are often starting off on a very clean slate, right? And there was less of organizational bureaucracy. Um, the team comes together and hustles on building whatever it takes. But when it comes to large global enterprises, right? So they have a legacy associated with them. Changing that becomes difficult. And also when it comes to the ER&D service providers, right? So be it TCS or Cyan, these are large organizations, right? But how do you really, seed the startup kind of an innovation approach into such large organizations, right? So what are those success factors that's required for driving, institutionalizing innovation, be it in terms of the org structure, in terms of building ecosystem partnerships, or anything for that matter, so that we can actually bring in that startup kind of a mindset, both in terms of how you deliver to your customers and both in terms of how large service providers operate. So I'll probably have Rajneesh go first.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Karan. Yeah, so I think organizational structure is very key. I completely agree with that point, that if you cannot be, innovation cannot be lost in a bigger organization. There has to be a startup mindset. So what we have done is there is a team that is like, I think that's the case in most of the organization, right? So there is a technology organization that is very focused on innovation. They have a clear budget allocated for the year, saying this much is available for you and this is what you should be doing, with some objectives to achieve, saying, okay, this innovation should yield these results, right? And then within that boundary, you come up with ideas and try to deliver. It cannot be that the budget for innovation is identified based on the use case, right? Then it becomes very difficult because you're middle of the year, you're trying to grab the budget from somewhere here and there. Very clear definition of how much are we going to invest in innovation? What is the team that is going to deliver this? And then you can continue to ideate various ideas coming in from the organization, pick that through the monthly council process that I mentioned and Sai also walked through, and then run with it, right? You may not continue with the same idea for 12 months, right? Fail fast is the idea really, but you still have a team that will fail fast on first 3 ideas probably, and then continue with the next 3 ideas through the year. Because just like a startup culture, the success is based on how fast you fail really, right? So you have to be ready for that. And at the end of the day, you have to also make sure you're aligned to customers' needs, customers' thought process. I think Sai kind of touched upon that getting to know what customer needs are and aligning to that for the next wave of customer needs is very key. Otherwise, innovation cannot be for, at least for some of the organizations in ER&D, it cannot be innovation for 3 to 5 years from now. That can be in a university or academia research. This innovation is about how can we make impact in next 6 to 24 months at the longest period, right? Within 6 to 24 months, will it make an impact? And continue to monitor that and take quick decisions to evolve that journey, right? I think those are 2 critical things for sure. And third one I would call out, and I think I saw that in the chat as well, is the motivation for the team. Sometimes it gets to a situation that you form the team, you get started and you don't see success. There is a worry of, will it continue for long? Will it, is it sustainable? Will I get the required support, right? There is no customer leads. What do we do next, etc. My view on that, and I think for most of the organization to look at is, you use that team as an innovation team, right? The idea is something that will continue to change, but make sure they have a path. And it's almost like a team of, let's say 20, 50 or 100 people who are PhD students in your organization, and they will continue to research on various topics, right? So based on what is the need of the hour, what will work for the business. And therefore give them that view, saying that, oh, you are here, this is our journey for next 3 years, right? These are the areas that we have identified. We'll continue to innovate based on the customer needs. And there is a long-term path. I think these are the 3 things that are correct from my side.
And Sai?
Yeah, so the thing is, when we look at the way a startup works, predominantly that, the fear of, something that might not work very quickly, I mean, is something that they need to understand. So this team that I talked about, when you incubate from, you're moving from the TRL stages, and especially the 4 to 6 stage, is a case where typically you need that kind of a startup mindset, where you probably don't know how long this is going to continue, and whether you have the right funds to do it, and make sure that you have the right business problem, and you're continuously validating this. So there, the fundamental thing is you should have at least tested things out on multiple customers. And so when you have that test journey that you do, and that's probably the place where all this validation kind of comes true to you, whether have you picked the right problem, is the right solution, is this making sense, am I late in the market? Because there are some certain times that when you are out in the market, you suddenly realize that you're slow, and you probably don't know how long to continue. So some of these mindsets are some of that is a core team that needs to have some kind of, I would say, a shield around on how they need to function, so that they don't get down into certain bureaucracies and some of these other situations that they're in. And that's probably where we focus a lot. So we call them as technical entrepreneurs or technopreneurs. So they actually have a technical mindset with an entrepreneurial skills, and so that they can drive some of these solutions out much faster and engineer them more into the products. And like I said, that's a portion where you have to spend close to 80% of your effort, your patience, your money as well. It's like anybody who has built a house can understand. You look at it, you say, once the walls and the windows and the roof is done, it looks like the house is done. But after that, all the chipping and the electrical fittings and this whatever you do, flooring, it's all inside the house, and you don't see what is happening. So if management looks at it from an outside perspective, like that house, you will never know what is exactly happening inside, and you think that there's a long delay. But those are times that you have to actually chisel out and engineer some of these things from your products, and pull out things which are what you call feature rich, and something that the customer would really like to have from us.
Wonderful. No, I think these were wonderful insights from both you, Rajneesh, and Sai Prasad. So we'll probably take some audience questions for the next couple of minutes. I'd request the audience, we may have just time for one or two questions, but one question that I already see here is the biggest hurdle is ideating, but the idea creator does not get the real recognition as the corporate wants more commercial context. So again, my question to you is, so while your teams actually come up with ideas, how do you really award those ideas? All right. So is it just because so typically what we have also seen is that a lot of the new spin-offs in terms of startups have come in from employees who previously worked for large organizations. It's probably because their innovation, their concept did not get a recognition there, and which is where they thought of coming out and creating a visibility for themselves with their innovation. But typically when you really have to encourage creativity and innovation amongst the idea generators, how do you really reward them within a context of a large organization?
So if I were to take the TCS case, we actually have something called as an Innovista, which is basically a kind of a competition that we run across entire of TCS, all employees. If you've done the innovation with respect to a customer, or you have built a product or a solution for TCS, it doesn't matter who it is. So we run that as a challenge every year, and there's one that happens at TCS level, and then the entries which make into the kind of semi-final or final is also pushed across to the group innovation challenge, which is the Tata Innovista. We participate that very strong from every unit. So not just that the individual, the unit also gets recognized, saying that this is the most innovative unit and things like that. So we and those are certain criteria that we measure those innovations on. I mean, have I piloted this somewhere? Has it been implemented with the customer? Or a case of, for example, is this more helping from a sustainability angle, things like that. So there are some 3 or 4 categories. We also celebrate failures. So we have something called Dare to Try. So that means you have tried something, you failed, and that they also get an award saying that you've been trying something which probably was not in the right time, or you might not have got the right solution, or maybe the customer, for whatever reason, you're not able to push that out in the market. So you actually celebrate successes and failures in the space, and that's where everybody gets awarded. So even if you failed, you could potentially compete and win a better failure award, I mean, in some sense. So that motivates the team to participate in some of these competitions and things like that. In addition to that, every associate has what we call the innovation or a strategic innovation ideas, or some of these things which they need to evaluate on to figure out are there something that they can potentially bring to the market. And if they have done some of these, then they also get recognized from an individual perspective, and both from a technical architecture. We call that another competition called tactics for technical architectures, so which are not really related to any customer or something of that sort, but you have come out with some new business architecture or a technical architecture. They actually can be presented, and we award them as well. So there are a few things that we award those individuals and recognize them. In addition to awards and recognition, it is more like I said, in some sense, to protect them from many onslaughts of revenue generations, and put them onto some kind of a billable engagement and things like that. So they've predominantly protected out of the major flow of things. In fact, units like us, like mine, is essentially away from some of those pressures. So it gives that freedom to operate the way you would like to run your particular unit.
Perfect. Thoughts from you, Rajneesh?
Yeah, I think Sai Prasad covered very good points on that, which I had similar thoughts on. A few things I would probably add is that I saw a lot of comments on that line as well, right? Innovation cannot be just a technology hype, right? Innovation has to yield some commercial results for sure, right? It need not be just cost savings. It can be future growth of revenue. It can be something that will stand out and show benefit for our customers in future. So I'll take the word that I think Sai Prasad mentioned, which is technology entrepreneur, right? I think that's a key thing, right? So how do you align and make our technologists not just talking about technology, but make them entrepreneur mindset based, so that they use technology to drive business and change or growth for the organization, not just our organization, but customer organization, right? So building that culture or mindset where technology and business comes together is one of the key elements of success. And that kind of motivates people to also think about how they can do more to take it to customer, show benefit to customer, rather than just talk about a new technology, how the technology helps customers, right? These are two very similar lines, but sometimes we get lost on how the technology, like for example, the latest trend on chat GPT, right? Everybody talks about what chat GPT can do and big things and the changes that it is showing, but how is it going to be used in business, and how will it make revenue sense, and growth is what will take it for long term, right? I think that's probably the last thought I have on this, Karan, where we bring together technology and business to make technical or technology entrepreneurs in the organization.
Great. So I think we are on time. So we will probably have to conclude here. But before we leave, we have some questions for the audience. But before that, I would like to thank both Sai Prasad and Rajneesh for sharing wonderful and very deep insights on what it takes to drive innovation. How do we manage the complexity of driving innovation? How do we scale innovation? So thank you very much to both of you for your time today. But before you leave, we just want to quickly get a sense of what you thought about this session. So Avinash, if you could bring up the poll, please. And to the audience, who have posted their questions, while we may not be able to address the questions in today's session, so what we do post each of the Immersive series is we publish a playbook, and we'll try to address some of those questions as part of the playbook itself. Avinash? If you could bring up the poll, please. Great. So there are three questions here. How willing are you to implement the best practices, learnings, insights gathered from the session? You want to implement it in the short term, medium term, implement it in the long term, or it's not applicable to your organization? How relevant was today's session in the context of your organization? You can rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. And then how do you rate the overall session? And in case you have some feedback in terms of, how you want us to improve the session in terms of the questions asked, the insights sought from the panelists, do let us know that as well. Great. So we will close here. Avinash, we will not this poll results is for our reference. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your time. And before you leave, I also want to highlight that we have a session tomorrow. So while this session was with the ER&D service providers, tomorrow's session is going to be with the GCCs. So we have Gopinath from Western Digital, as well as Mohan from Bosch participating in the session. The theme is very similar to what we had today, but we're going to hear their perspectives from a GCC standpoint. So we look forward to you joining that session as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karan. Yeah, thank you, Avinash. Yeah.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.